Hi, my name's Chris and welcome again to Stat Bites, the channel where we address misinformation and bogus claims from the length and breadth of the internet. And today we're talking about Darren Grimes and Andrew Harrison, two Reform UK councillors from County Durham in the northeast of England. And so with a lot of Reform councillors, what we've been finding is that they're boosting stories about how they've done X, Y and Z task as part of their county council jobs. And they're making out that like it's a really special big thing that they've done and no other councillors have done it before. But when you look into it, it's either been made up or it's just a normal part of a councillor's workflow. So I think this is a really good example to get into to try and find out, have they actually done an exceptional job here, or are they doing what's expected? And this particular story had a bit of a weird trajectory, I'll say. Where it was first mentioned here by Councillor Harrison on the Reform UK CM page. And I've highlighted it in red here, that one serving military family have had their son gain a school placement under the Armed Forces Covenant, despite an appeal failing last month. Their local MP said nothing could be done in North Durham. And if you want to pause it and have a read of the whole thing, you can see that it looks like there's a lot of things here which are normal parts of their jobs, and kind of dubious ways of wording it. But so Councillor Harrison wrote this first post at 10 to 6 on the 4th of June. But then Darren Grimes uploaded this to his Facebook page at 2 minutes past 6. Did a bit more of a wordy explanation as to what happened, and then posted what looks to be an AI image of two people shaking hands while a woman and a kid look on smiling. It's very odd. But this is the main post that we're going to be exploring in this video. But then Councillor Harrison did another post about this. So at 5 to 10 back again on the Reform UK page, he references Darren Grimes's page, the story. Even though it's Harrison's story, he's going back and linking to Darren Grimes's page, which I just thought was very odd. Just an observation, there's not really much more to say about that. It's just an odd thing to do, that it's your story, but you're referring to somebody else's explanation of what you supposedly did. So, back again to Darren Grimes's post. We're going to go through here is first the picture, and then we'll go into a bit of the words. Alright, so first of all, how can we tell that this is AI? Well, this gentleman here, standing in the suit and the glasses, that's not Councillor Harrison. That's the first giveaway that this is AI. This is Andrew Harrison. Completely different in build, in facial structure, his hairstyle. They look nothing alike. The second big giveaway is that this isn't the British camouflage pattern. And secondly, look at the councillor's hand as it's wrapped around the soldier's hand. If you look at the structure of that, that would make his hand really long to make his fingers wrap around like that. Either like the base of the fingers are really long, or it's the palm of his hand would just be twice as long as a normal person's. The next thing to look at is zooming in on the soldier's hand, is that his index and middle finger, as they're wrapping around the councillor's hand, are basically going into the guy's hand. There's nowhere for the fingers to go. And then zooming in on the rank on the soldier, there's just a button there. Usually there'd be a rank, just sort of about where your sternum is. And then that would have the rank of the soldier, but that's just a button. And then zooming in on his face, his right eye, it doesn't look normal. I don't know how to describe it, but that does not look like a normal eye. And then looking above their heads at the school sign, it just says school. And then the shape of the sign just suggests there's nothing above it, or if it is, it's really, really short. But yeah, so the school is just called school. Another thing that's a bit of a giveaway, I think, is that the child, he's in school uniform, but he hasn't started at the school yet. So why would he even be at the school? And then the soldier is wearing his uniform, but he's not on duty and he's tending to private family business. So why would he be dressed in his army uniform? So next, let's talk about Darren Grimes' explanation of what actually happened. I mean, first of all, an issue with it is that it's Darren Grimes explaining it and not Andrew Harrison. So we don't know if he's got the right understanding of what actually happened. And so Grimes doesn't actually explain what happened to cause an issue or why the appeal failed. There's no explanation as to what the issue with the MP was. They make it sound like the MP fobbed the family off, but was it that it was added to the MP's workflow and was in progress? Or was it just passed on to local council because it was more appropriate for them to do? So we have no understanding of what Harrison did that was so special or unusual in comparison to a councillor's normal workflow. And if you look at a lot of Darren Grimes' posts, he often uses emotive or amplifying words, like where he says, calls the school exceptional. But you have to be really careful and watch out for this, because it's easy to have your feelings towards an issue manipulated just because of this amplifying or emotive language. So for example, there's no reason in that sentence to call the school exceptional. It's just about the child getting a place. But that doesn't make something exceptional just because something that should have happened did. But why is any of this important? You know, why is it he's used an AI image? He's explained the job of what a reform council has done. Well, they're using the picture to manipulate you into not only thinking that the story is real without any evidence that it is, but it also makes you attach more importance to the story than it otherwise deserves. Also, it stops you thinking critically because you've seen a photo of a neat and well-dressed councillor shaking hands with a senior-looking military officer, and because everything looks respectable and above board, it just stops you thinking critically about it and wanting to deconstruct the situation. Because when you're just reading the news and doom scrolling, you just want to follow the path of least resistance and move on to the next story. And then so he's doing everything he can just to make this story sound exceptional and wonderful, and look at us doing our jobs, nobody else could do these jobs. And in terms of using an AI image, if you read the people supporting Darren Grimes' actions, they're arguing that the photo's there for privacy reasons, but there's no evidence that that's true. Darren Grimes doesn't even say that that's a reason. People just support him, and then they want to give him the benefit of the doubt for whatever reason. But in reality, that say when a newspaper is publishing a story and then the family wants their anonymity, then newspapers use different photos. This is just manipulation, plain and simple. And it's also making you overlook the actual privacy issues of boosting the story. So just to explain, in data analytics, we often remove identifying pieces of information. You know, like if you have like an unusual disease or something that not many people in your area might have, it could be really rare. And so we remove identifying pieces of information like that. Because when you're able to find several data points that would be rare among a population, it becomes fairly easy for someone in your area to identify who a family or an individual is as having that disease, or in this case, that kid getting the school place. And so don't worry, I'm not going to be identifying anyone here, but what we do know is we have the service length of 30 years, which is quite unusual that somebody would be in the military that long. Usually you might serve for 22 to 25 years, but to serve for 30, that means that he might have a certain kind of role, or he might hold certain ranks to enable him to serve for that length. We know that they're going to be new to an area. They might not live there yet, but they are soon going to. We know the sex of the child, and we know the area of County Durham because they've named the specific councillor and the area that is Reform UK CM that are posting about it, so we know the ward they live in. And so anyone in that area could find out that the story is related to that new family moving in down the street, and now they know their personal business. And alright, you might argue that, well, it's just about a kid getting a school place, what can anyone do with that? Well, it's not up to you to say what somebody wants to see as private. They've had that decision taken away from them. And then if they've decided to use an AI photo because they the family want to retain their anonymity, well, if that was the case, then why have they gone and revealed all this other information for us? If anything, this is just completely lackadaisical. So in terms of moving forward, what can we do next? Well, we need to find out if this story is actually real in the first place. So I've approached those involved for comment, which includes Councillors Grimes and Harrison, and I've written to the office of Mary Kelly Foy, the County Durham MP. And in terms of the Armed Forces Covenant, which Darren, Grimes and Harrison keep mentioning, yes, it is supposed to be about issues like this. But it seems so far that this is just a normal part of a councillor's job, and it is highly inappropriate for a councillor to share so much detail about their caseload. As Alwyn Gunn, a previous long-serving member of Durham County Council, explains, if it is real, the background information is also thin. It is worth noting that there is nothing exceptional or unique about this story. Councillors should help where they can, and from experience, I know that councillors of different political groups have always done what they can. That is their role. The difference here is that in previous cases, councillors have acted with sensitivity and confidentiality and not used individual casework which identifies residents, in this case parents and their child, to grandstand and attack other politicians on social media. Even if it is true and the family have agreed to this kind of publicity, it uses changes for the worse to the way in which some council politicians conduct Durham County Council casework. And so with all that in mind, I have written to both Harrison and Grimes and asked them a set of 7 questions. Which schools did you liaise with to get this done? Obviously I know that they might not be able to share that because of anonymity reasons, but I have also asked, in what way did you help get the pupil a place at a school specifically? When the family initially applied for a place for their child, what was the reason for the rejection? When the family appealed the rejection, what was the reason for the rejection of the appeal? What specific red tape was holding the pupil back from getting a place that you helped to bypass? If it was possible to get this pupil a place by getting around bureaucracy, what is holding other potential pupils back from doing the same? And what was the reason for using an AI generated image of 2 men shaking hands while a child and a woman looked on and not declaring it as an AI image? So watch this space, we'll see if I get a response from anybody concerned. I understand that with the MP, due to the level of the work that they're meant to be doing, that I don't think I'll get a reply from them, especially with how many questions I've asked. But I certainly expect a reply from the county councillors, especially because they boosted this story. So yeah, watch this space and hit me up with any comments or questions that you might have below.